Let's get cracking then. So we've got first. It's all about jargon busting, and John, you're taking the hot seat for this one. So come on then, what jargon are we going to be busting today?
We are going to be busting SAFe today. So how this came about, this concept, this came about when we were at the PMO conference and we did HOThouse Live. I don't know if anyone here was at that event, but basically we did the Hot or Not, which is our regular segment. We did that in front of a live audience where they were holding up red and green cards about things being hot or not. And we mentioned SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, and it got a massive negative thumbs down from everybody there, which threw me a bit, because in my mind it's always been a case of, well, I get why developers don't like SAFe, because they like to be in a very, very agile environment, and the more control, dare I say, bureaucracy and things that you put around their ability to just sit down and code without anyone getting in their way, they don't tend to like. And I get that, but then why would PMO people not be liking it, given that it's something that is supposed to give us more control, more structure and everything at an organizational level? So that really, really threw me. So I just wanted to, and I've spoken to a few people since, and I'm not sure everyone had a common understanding of what SAFe was. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit today. And I've not done slides quite deliberately for this one, because I want to give you access. I want you to look at the website that's in front of me, because this is super, super accessible and you can play around with this yourself. I say it's super accessible. I entirely acknowledge that this looks very, very scary. There's a lot of information on a page there. And I think this is where most people start with SAFe. They look at this image and they go, I've got no idea what's going on there. It's a bit too crazy and I don't want to deal with it. So let me just give you a flavor of what SAFe is. Everything with SAFe has kind of come bottom up. So you're starting off with this idea of a scrum team. These small teams that work amongst themselves, they agree what they're doing in a 2-week sprint. It's normally 2 weeks. They'll agree what they're going to deliver. The team will lock themselves away. They'll do that work. They'll talk to a product owner and make sure they understand exactly what they're doing. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, they go, ta-da, here's what we've done. What do you think? Do you like it? How does this affect our backlog going forwards? Do we need to bring other things in, move other things down and adjust? And then we kind of carry on going with the next sprint and the next sprint. And for a small team, that works really well. For a tiny organization, that works really well when you've got one dev team. But what about when you're in a large organization and you've got multiple teams doing lots of different things, and those teams have dependencies against each other and they're competing for resources? And then you get into a problem where Agile, in terms of Scrum, doesn't really work for you because it's designed for small teams. So there's then been a whole load of ideas that different consultancies have come up with for how we scale Agile. So this is one, SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework. There's also Disciplined Agile. There's less. There's quite a few of these different approaches that are around, and they've all evolved over time. Now, SAFe here starts with, at the bottom here, you've got Scrum teams essentially running in regular releases where they're continuously deploying stuff and they're working in a kind of 2-week cycle. When you have multiple teams, they have this idea of you working in what they call trains, agile release trains or arts. The idea is you have multiple teams working together, all working to the same kind of cadence. So working to the same kind of 2-week drumbeat of sprints running, and they try and plan work for all of those teams together in these roughly sort of 12 to 14 week cycles, basically. So you're getting everybody together in one big group, say, right, let's work out what we're doing for the next 12 to 14 weeks across all of our Scrum teams. Let's map that out super high level, understand where the dependencies are. You have all the developers and everyone in a room together to figure that out together, and everyone comes away with a common understanding of what they're trying to get done over that 12 to 14 weeks. So that's kind of how it's working, and that's what these release trains are. But what it also has wrapped around it is a whole load of guidance going right up to this top level here of working at the portfolio level. And what it's talking about here is saying we should be taking our strategic themes from the organization. We should be creating a vision board essentially at that point to say, what does that look like and what does that mean we will be doing? They've got this concept of lean budgets where you basically set up guardrails, say this is what we want to spend in different areas, this is at a high level how we want to spend it, and this is what the outcomes are. And you're, by creating those budgets and giving people guardrails, you're essentially delegating a lot of the responsibility for achieving those goals within those constraints to the teams. The idea is that you've not got somebody checking and balancing every single point through that 14 weeks. You're delegating that authority, and the team should be able to rock on and deliver as long as they're within the constraints that you've given them. Now, a few things about SAFE that I would say to you. Firstly, the people behind this advocate an implementation roadmap to implement SAFE. Ironically, this, when you, there's not a picture on that page there, but when you do dive into this and take a look at it, you will see that it looks surprisingly linear and not very agile. They want to train everybody big bang and then implement it all at once. Personally, I would not advocate that approach. I would always advocate starting from where you are now and iteratively evolving from where you are now. The other thing is and this is not a criticism of SAFE, this is true of large agile, Scrum, disciplined agile, all of the other things out there. All of these have been built generically to try and work for a large set of organizations. They have not been built for your organization, your foibles, the journey you've been on so far and where you want to get to. As expert PMO people, what you need to be doing, if your organization is talking about using SAFE or anything like that, take a look at it, understand it, and then work out which bits work for you, which bits don't work for you, and then make sure you're pulling in the right bits for your organization, because you will know your ways of working, your body of knowledge, your capacity and capability better than anybody from a consultancy selling you SAFE will be able to tell you. In the meantime, there is a lot of good stuff on here that is well worth you looking through, whether you're using SAFE or not using SAFE, or whether you're agile or not. When you play around with this site, you'll find you can click through on these things and learn a lot more about how everything works. So any click on here will take you through to more detail about what they mean by a release train, how they see that working across silos, how they avoid silos in their way of working, and what they believe release trains look like, and what they believe value streams look like, and everything. So I would urge you, even if you're not a SAFE shop, even if you've heard terrible things about it, dive in, have a look around, play around with it, learn some background on what they think is good, but then use your lens as PMO experts and experts in your organization to decide what of this is valuable, what will work in your organization, and which bits are just not right for you at this stage. There you go. That's SAFE, and hopefully we've busted the jargon around that one.
You're on mute, Lindsay.
Oh, it wouldn't be a Zoom call without somebody saying you're on mute at some point, would it? I'm just ticking that one off my little bingo list, and she's back. There we go.
Today, aren't I? Eileen asked an interesting question. Is it equivalent of a 12-14 week portfolio plan? Is it?
Yeah. So it's I mean, how you actually build it. If you imagine having a big wall, you'd map out the 2 weeks in sort of swim lane style. You'd be briefing everybody at the beginning and saying, okay, guys, here's what we're doing. At the very, very high level, this is what we want to achieve. You've got your senior architects, senior product people there describing strategically what we want to achieve in the next 12 to 14 weeks. Then you're getting the teams to work out how they're going to chunk that down, how they deliver that. And they're updating that board as they go. This is what we're going to do in week 1, week 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and you're looking at what those dependencies are. So you might find you've got a piece of work that needs an architecture team to do some fundamental work. That would go into sprint 1. You find you can't start your bit till sprint 3. So yes, it's a portfolio plan essentially for that, hyper visible, where all the big difference is quite often when we do those, it's project managers planning them. The idea here in what they call PI planning is where they would get the developers and everybody in the room to work out how it's working together. So it's built a lot. Those plans are built from the ground up rather than from a project manager or portfolio manager down. I think that's the big emphasis they put on it.
Yeah, we also had a comment from somebody on LinkedIn who was watching live. They recommended the Safe Agilist course as the one that's most accessible to PMO managers or PMO analysts that are interested in looking at that. So thanks for that insight. That's fantastic. So let's move on then. So